Hi everyone, I'm Rochelle with Originally Worn, and in this video I'm going to show you how to transform something like this little table into more of a farmhouse inspired table using Miss Mustard Seed's milk paint. But first, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can also find us online at Originally Worn Online and on Facebook and Instagram under Originally Worn. The first thing you're going to need to do is get your piece prepped. So what we've done to prep this piece is just cleaned it really well with about 2 drops of dish soap, a half a gallon of hot water, and maybe a 1/4 cup of vinegar. And I just scrubbed it down, got all the dirt off of it and all the grime, made a couple little repairs, but I didn't sand it at all. And the reason being is because I don't really want the paint to stick. This look is for a very flaky, fall off, antiqued paint look. So therefore, we don't want it to be perfect. A really great way to achieve this look is by using this Miss Mustard Seed powdered milk paint. The reason being is, like a lot of traditional paints, it actually doesn't have like a bonding agent or a primer already mixed into it. And so it's made of just 5 natural ingredients, and once mixed together and painted on, if your surface is not prepped properly, it can flake off, which looks really cool. So once you're all cleaned up and ready to go, there's a couple things you can do to ensure that your paint is going to stick if you want it to, or not stick if you don't want it to. So if you want it to stick, there is a bonding agent you can mix in when you mix up the paint. Also, you can sand and prime your surface first. Again, I don't want mine to stick, so I'm going to do the opposite. I did not sand and I will not prime. I just cleaned the dirt off, and I'm going to take this wax puck made by Miss Mustard Seed, and I'm going to hit all these kind of edges where you would naturally see the distressing happen. They might have come off anyway, but this will be just one more layer of a resist to make sure that the paint doesn't stick on there and chips off easily. It's kind of like adding a little layer of grease in a weird way. So I'm really just going around the edges. We'll actually end up taking this drawer out. Can stick him down there. Do the handle. Any place that you would actually see distressing in is good. I don't typically go with my wax puck and just go down the sides of it. And the reason being is that distressing naturally happens on your edges and goes in. Now, if this happens to flake all down the side, that'll be awesome. But I don't need to do any more than I've done for that. When you're not making a tutorial video, you can certainly do this ahead of time before you prep your piece, but I had just already prepped the piece today. So what you'll have is that you'll have this powdered paint. I try to mix up only what I'm going to use for that day, just because I don't think it keeps very well for very long. And I like to mix mine in a jar with a lid, and I like to put the water first. It's a 1-to-1 part ratio. It's kind of hard to guess of how much I think I'm going to need, because I am actually more of an Annie Sloan painter than Miss Mustard Seed painter, but I really love how it chips off. So I'm going to try to go here with 1/2 cup. So I have hot water in here, and I don't think it has to be hot. I just tend to always do that when I'm mixing paints. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of water, and then I'm going to go into our powdered mixture. This is actually a 1/4 cup, but it fits better in there. And you can certainly dump this into a different jar or container, whatever works easiest for you. Here's a 1/4 cup. I'm going to dump that in, and I'm going to dump another 1/4 cup in. You don't have to measure this out. In the end, you want kind of the consistency of coffee creamer, or I guess just regular cream. Doesn't have to be coffee creamer. So there's that. We're gonna mix this now for 1 minute. You can use a blender. I just feel like when I use a blender that it gets too frothy and foamy. So this tool is made by Miss Mustard Seed, and it's got batteries in it, and it's just a little like frother. So I'm basically gonna turn it on and stick it in there. Once the water and the paint is incorporated, it's usually for about 1 minute of mixing time. Then I'm gonna wait for 10 minutes and let more of the pigments dissolve. If you don't do this, what happens is that you'll get to like the end of your batch of paint, and then it'll be like a different color because there's different pigments will have dissolved because they sat in the water longer. So after a minute of mixing, then I'm going to pause this and stick the lid on it. Stick that in my water. And I'm gonna let this sit for 10 minutes. After your mixture has sat for 10 minutes, open it back up and mix it for one more. We're gonna test this out here in a second and see if we like the consistency. If you don't like the consistency, if you want it thicker, just add more paint. If you need it thinner, just add more water. This isn't as thick as chalk paint, like Annie Sloan paint that I use normally. This is meant to be kind of a thinner, and I think I have a pretty good consistency, but let's see. I'll be using a flat Annie Sloan paintbrush. These are synthetic ones. You can use any decent high quality paintbrush. So we get her on there and well, perfect consistency. So I'm gonna go around and paint one layer on everything here. There we have one coat on everything. A couple things to note while we wait for this to dry. I forgot to tell you guys the color is Linen from Miss Mustard Seed Milk Paint. And you can buy it from a retailer that carries their paint or from my Amazon store, and that link will be below. And a couple other things is that I've used about 3/4 of the mixture I made on this table, so I didn't make quite enough up. I'll mix more up while this one dries. Again, you don't really want to mix up too much because it's only really good for a day or two afterwards. Also, as you get towards the bottom, there tends to be some chunks, even as much as you try to mix it up. I blend them out with my brush, but I'm also going for a super chippy kind of look, so it's not that important. If you want, just stick your blender in there again and blend it up. While we wait for this to dry, I'll mix up some more paint, wash up my brushes, and then I'll get back to you with the second coat. So now we're gonna let this dry, and then I'm going to hit it all over with a sanding block. Hopefully where I did my wax resist, it will start to kind of chip off. I don't see a lot of crackling or chipping yet, but usually a sander kind of can help that process along. Sometimes it makes like a really cool spiderweb right away. You can also hit it with a blow dryer to make it crackle a little bit more. Sometimes I've had to just hit it with a palm sander because even though I haven't done, you know, anything to really prep it, it still is stuck to the surface. Of course, those are, you know, a drier type of wood. So here is the top of the table. This is my ideal happenings with this paint. I love when it does that on its own. See how cool that's gonna look when I chip it off? But you look down the side here and on the drawer, I have none of that. So I'm gonna have to fake it now in some areas using my sander and my scraper. All right, now I'm gonna show you how to wax. I'm using Annie Sloan clear wax with an Annie Sloan large wax brush and a white shop towel. And I have more detailed videos on how to do this, but basically you just get it on there. And there isn't really a reason that I'm not using the Miss Mustard Seed wax. It's just that I am an Annie Sloan stockist and a typically Annie Sloan user, so I have it on hand. This paint does wax up really beautifully and really easily. And I usually just put one coat of wax on everything. If it's like the top of this table, I will put 2 coats of wax on it, so it'll have just a little bit more protection to it. But you kind of wipe in one area at a time. Take your rag and wipe off the excess. I like to do long, kind of linear strokes. And I like to make sure that it's in, but I don't want to also over wax because that seems to make high and low spots. So I get a new clean part of my rag and do a couple more wipes. And there, that side is done. Now that I'm done waxing, I'm gonna give you a couple last minute tips that you might need. If you're one of the lucky ones, or unlucky depending on how you wanna look at it, and your piece chips like crazy, there is a product by Miss Mustard Seed called Tough Coat, I believe, that can go on. It's a little bit more like a lacquer or a poly that can really hold that paint then in place. Or alternatively, you could use Annie Sloan's lacquer. It comes in matte and gloss. Also, if you wanted to go from here, you could certainly add like a dark wax or an antiquing wax or a black wax, depending on what brand you're going with, what it's going to be called. That would give it even more kind of rustic vibe, but we're going kind of for the light and bright farmhouse. So I'll give you a quick tour around him. Hopefully you can see the details well here. I'm actually in my basement late at night working, so forgive the lighting if we need here, and that's kind of a little bit about, see the top chipped a little bit more, but then when I sanded it, it didn't even want to give it all. So, and here's the other side. Forgive the color there. Like I said, late at night basement action here. See those wonderful chips up there? But I do really like how it kind of comes off in chunks, like you can see down there or right there. I hope you guys like this project. Be sure to share it with your friends if so, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, you can find us online at originallywornonline.com and on Facebook and Instagram. Otherwise, happy painting!